Support for WBFO and What's Next comes from our members and from Health Foundation for Western and Central New York, where racial and socioeconomic health equity are prioritized. Learn more about building healthier neighborhoods at hfwcny.org.
I'm Jay Moran.
I'm Bridget Jaipal Valenza.
I'm Thomas O'Neill White.
We need to get together and let our voices be heard.
This is What's Next, a dedicated hour to have important conversations about the issues facing the marginalized and underrepresented communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario.
If we're going to have some real healing, we've got to have space to tell some uncomfortable truth.
What's Next continues our mission to discuss race,
equity,
and the common concerns of Buffalo's East Side and beyond.
The suburban area, everywhere, we must work and teach our children.
And welcome to What's Next. Today, we are very pleased to have with us on What's Next the 13th president of SUNY Erie, and that is Dr. Adiam Tsegai. Dr. Tsegai, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
It's a pleasure and an honor to have you with us, as a matter of fact. I want to talk about a lot of different things. Your personal story is fascinating. But right off the bat, just because I want to make sure that there's plenty of time to clarify,
sure,
because you brought this up in our pre-interview about ECC South, right, where it stands right now. There's, of course, it's been talked about quite a bit about the proposal, let's call it a proposal rather than a plan right now because it's not set in stone, to move out of the current facility and then lease space in the South Towns. Talk about the program and make sure you clarify some of the things that you think are misconceptions about this.
Absolutely. So thank you for that question. That's a great question. So our board and myself are very committed to serving the Southtown student population in that community. So our board voted to make sure that we have a presence in the Southtown. And so we decided to look for another location where it would be right size, but serving our students both academically and the student service side of it. So we enter into an agreement to have a lease at the South Campus, 2 miles from our current site. So we are looking to get that approved until State Ed approve it or not. That's not a final contract yet. And so we're waiting for approval from State Ed. With that being said, right now, our South Campus is operating. We have our student body there. We have our program. We just started a cohort at the South Campus with our students coming in. So we have roughly about 500 students, our faculty and staff. So we're are open for business, as they say. And so we have our responsibility is to make sure that those students who have registered at our current site will have the opportunity to be taught out. So you're looking at about almost close to 2 years.
Okay.
To make sure that those students finish their program as we wait for us to relocate to our new location based upon the approval of the State Ed.
Okay, so the State Education Department has to approve this plan, and like you said, it won't happen until the students who entered there this fall have an opportunity to matriculate through the programs.
That's correct.
Very good.
Correct.
And then, just to clarify also, then the campus itself will be sold off.
So then there's another process with that. The sort of the regulation is that our board, SUNY Erie board, has to deem that particular location as not an academic site, and then it has to go through SUNY. And then once that happens, that process takes a time to do that. Then and only then can that place be back to the possibility of auction it or other things. But until then, still that is considered our campus, and we are, running our programs out of the South Campus.
Very good. Well, I appreciate the clarification on that. As we move through our conversation. Well, let's switch back, though, just a little bit. Your personal story and also your family story. And I just heard a little bit about your mother.
Yes.
Tell me about your mother's story.
Absolutely. So thank you again for that question. My mother is an incredible woman who taught myself and my sibling to be strong. So my family and I immigrated from Eritrea back in the 80s. and to the Bronx, New York, and lived. And so particularly with my mother, she worked so hard, very odd jobs. But what stands up the most for me was that my mother was a public servant. My mother believed in women, particularly getting the education and empowering women. And so my mother was this fearless leader who not only took care of her family, but also took care of the community. So as I was growing up, I watched my mother lead. And if you were to ask me who is your role model as a leader, I would say my mother, because she was able to navigate and negotiate things, particularly as it relates to empowering women in leadership and women through education. And so my mother was a huge influence into how I ended up in education and being here in front of you today.
And also just, being here in the United States within itself. The stories of people who immigrate to the United States are incredible stories for sure. What can you relate to us about your family's move here? It must have... culture shock is probably an understatement.
Yeah, it was a journey, and not because myself and my sibling, we were young. We didn't know where we were going, but when we did end up in New York City, we did not know the culture, the language. So it was a learning opportunity for us. And so for me, I was part of a ESL class with other people from different parts of the world, but I learned so much. And New York is very diverse, and so we took the opportunity to work hard. My family, both my mom and dad, worked very hard to make sure that we had the best. And so growing up in the Bronx, New York, very different, very diverse. So I learned, but it was also empowering to really take every opportunity and work hard and continue to take advantage of the different opportunity coming to the U.S.
And it's interesting because you did use that word a couple of times, opportunity.
Yes.
I think I said challenge. You said opportunity.
Absolutely.
Explore that. Is that just something that's ingrained in you, that if there's something ahead, it's not an obstacle?
No, and that's one of the things I think I learned even through my the journey to becoming a president, is that everything is an opportunity for us. So for me, I don't see it as a challenge. I see it something to really work through, and given that as an opportunity to make a difference. So very solution-oriented, but really identifying what's in this challenge, right? Some call it challenge, but for me, I learned that was an opportunity. And that is testament to how my mother dealt with situation in life, right? Whether it be finding a different job, making sure that we had everything that we needed, but, she needed to do things a little bit differently and see that and seize the opportunity. Culturally, that's also ingrained. It's part of our culture that, everything is an opportunity for us to really be resilient and really feel empowered and take that ownership to just make things a little bit better.
Wow, that's well stated for sure. It's also interesting, of course, not only are you SUNY Erie's first female president and first African-American president, but you're also a graduate of SUNY Erie.
Very proud.
So how did Adiam Tsegai of the Bronx end up at Erie Community College?
Right. So growing up in the Bronx, part of it is that I went to a very large high school. And,
which high school, if you don't mind?
John F. Kennedy High School in the Bronx, New York. Close to 2,000 students.
Wow.
And so I was not expected to go to college. No one talked to me about the admission process, even the idea of going to college, because there were so many. It was in my senior year, a wonderful educator by the name of Miss Sheila Selden, who just in the hallway just happened to ask, what are you doing? I know you're graduating. Where are you going? I said, I don't know. Again, my family didn't know the sort of the reference of going to college. They did not attend college here in the U.S. And so it was Miss Sheila Selden that said, you're going to college. I'm going to help you. So it was 2 months before graduation. A lot of the applications were already in for college. So I would meet with Miss Selden almost every day after school, and she helped me through the process. And so one of the questions she asked was that, do you have family anywhere outside, New York, outside the Bronx? And then I mentioned that my sister lived in Buffalo, New York. So that was the goal for Miss Selden, because she knew growing up in the Bronx was tough. A lot of my peers did not finish high school, didn't have the opportunity again. But Ms. Selden opened that door for me, and so she helped me to apply, and then I came to SUNY Erie after high school, after I graduated from high school.
Okay, I've got to ask, what was that like coming? Now you're from Eritrea, you're in the Bronx, and now you're in Buffalo. Tell me.
So Buffalo was very interesting as I came. That was the first time I left my family. I missed, particularly my mother. I remember the first year greatly. But what was really unique about Buffalo, particularly at SUNY Erie, I had some wonderful faculty and staff that helped me to get used to and really acclimate myself. And, my sister was here too, so that did help. So it was great to have those mentors at SUNY Erie. I remember some of my faculty now. And my counselor as well, faculty advisor, who made it easy for me to be at the college. I remember going I graduated from the city campus and being in the atrium and being on the 5th floor and just kind of looking how this would be. And then to see, two decades later, I'm, at that same place, but I'm the president of the college. So it's very exciting. Surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tremendous story. How has the college changed since you first walked in those doors?
So some great changes at the college. Certainly some challenges, i.e. opportunities. But I think our college has a very interesting and rich history. I'm the many of so many people who graduated from the college and are making great impact. So I think taking the rich history of the college and building that foundation and really addressing some of those opportunities that we have to move the college forward. So for me, it's always looking backwards. What did we do and how did we do those things? And we did things well because we have made impact in the region and, in the nation as well as globally. But what does that look like for SUNY Erie now? So the idea is to talk about what do we need to do now by way of making sure that we're responding to our students and our community need. And then what does that look like for our future? So this idea of us being nimble and being flexible and really creating a foundation so that we can move the college forward. So it's really looking at the history now and then how do we continue to move forward.
What's the current enrollment now at SUNY Erie?
Absolutely. So we are going to have our official number next week.
Okay.
Because we do need some high school numbers. But what I could tell you is that we are moving in the right direction.
Going up.
Absolutely. Particularly as it relates to our new students. Where I think there's an opportunity for us is really to ensure that our students' experience is positive so that, number one, we could retain our students, and number two, our students are graduating in a timely manner. So the whole idea of enrollment, retention is the new enrollment is really a philosophy. So for me and for us, yes, we are bringing students, but our really focus equally is to make sure that they have the best academic and student services experience so that they could stay and then graduate in a timely manner and pursue either direct to the workforce or, continuing the education to above state or UB or other colleges in the area.
Yeah, the opportunity, of course, I think that's one of the things about community college throughout their history. It is an opportunity, obviously, for people to utilize higher education in a lot of different ways or enter into it in a lot of different ways. And it's interesting to hear you talk about your experience at Kennedy High School in the Bronx. You didn't really know what was going on. And I'm curious more from a general, you're not in every high school, but do you think that there are kids, especially in these larger schools, that are not necessarily getting that guidance or not getting an understanding of what might be available at a place like SUNY Erie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is, I believe that, and I think part of our partnership with the K-12 in Western New York has tremendously affect that, so that we have advanced studies where our students from the high schools are taking college level courses while they're at the school. So part of it is for us to really create that relationship early enough for those high schools to, for those high school students to really experience and take courses, but also know that this is a gateway to the community colleges specifically. One of the things that we did at the college about 2 years ago is we noticed that with advanced studies, particularly our Buffalo Public School, they were not able to afford the 1/3 tuition to take the advanced studies courses. So what we did, this was under Bill Reuter, who was the interim president, is made a decision that we were going to waive that for any high high schools that are Title III free lunch reduced, we were able to have it so that they could do advanced study for free.
Okay.
So that impacted the participation, particularly as it relates to Buffalo Public School. We are in about 18 schools in the Buffalo Public School specifically to really ensure that those students have the same opportunity to access higher ed by a way of taking college level courses at the high school.
And we're seeing plenty of students taking advantage of
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have about close to 2,000 students who participate in our advanced studies, so it's constantly growing. Where I think, again, the opportunity, though, is for us to really collaborate intentionally with the high school administrators so that the students are matriculating after that experience, matriculating to our college and creating that path for them. So I would say we have an excellent relationship with our K-12 for the purpose that you just said. It's opening that possibility for our students.
I know, like you said, you're still formulating enrollment numbers, but I'm curious if not specific number, but maybe a generalization of sorts. The student who comes to SUNY Erie, what do we know about the student? Or I'm trying to maybe build a little bit of a profile here, but where are the students coming from right now that attend SUNY Erie?
So they come from Erie County, but particularly I think what we're seeing is that we have the non-traditional students and the traditional students, meaning students directly graduating from college come into our, so that's approximately, I would say, around 50%. What we're seeing a growth is in the non-traditional students. These are students perhaps 25 and over in terms of age, but very diverse in terms of our new immigrant that's coming to. So we are seeing more of the non-traditional students coming to the college. And so part of the work that we're doing is to make sure that we are equipped to accommodate our traditional students, but non-traditional, their needs and requires a little bit different. And so that's the work that we're doing right now, is that we are going to be able to accommodate both the traditional and non-traditional student population.
Interesting about the non-traditional student. Again, I'll use the word challenge, but when you're trying to make SUNY Erie available and accessible to them, what are some of the things that you need to focus on?
I think diversity of when we offer our courses is one. In terms of services, library, tutoring hours, those are some of the things that we're looking to modify. And in general, what we also saw right after COVID is that a lot of our students are coming into the college, but the way they're taking their courses vary. There's some taking it online, there's some are taking it in the evening. So it's a very different way that our students are really taking the opportunity to get the education. So we have to be equipped to respond to that.
This is a kind of an aside of sorts, but I don't think I could have done remote learning.
Yes.
Is that something you think you could have? That would have worked for you as well?
We did it personally.
Yeah.
It is a challenge, but I think we could adapt. And I think that's what I in terms of even working, right? We had to work remotely.
That's true.
And so I think because of that, what we learned on the faculty and staff side, that we're more efficient. Because of that, we were all forced to get into this habit of, doing things at WebEx, and our meetings are very different. But our students are really forcing us to also accommodate them in this way of delivery. They're not all online, they're not all in person, but it's this idea of wanting that hybrid. We did, in terms of our office hours, that's something that our students also wanted, virtual versus in person. So really changing the mode of delivery and the way we operate the college as well.
So even, it's interesting, a personal aside, my mother actually worked in the registrar's office at the city campus.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she did. Yes, she did. So I can remember around registration time, she was always a little grumpy, but
rightfully so.
But so the sessions that she was doing back then, some of those would be available online now.
Absolutely. We are piloting that service right now to see how our students are using the service in terms of doing their financial aid and having the opportunity to chat with a counselor using a virtual system or that platform. So absolutely. I think what that means is that, now I just want to be clear, we are a community college. I think part of what we want to do is that to make sure that we're there for our students, but how we serve our students is really doing it so that we are very diverse and accommodating. So making sure that our offices are open to our students because they like that. That's one of the things that they're also very vocal. They want to be in a place where they belong and that we are there to listen to their some concern. But they also want some flexibility if they want to take one class online. So it's an interesting time.
Right. Yeah, I guess back to kind of my personal aside, while I don't think I could have been a remote student, I can see how some people are thriving with it.
That's right. Engagement is the key. I think that goes across whether it's in person or online, is how do we ensure that we're engaging students? And I think that's the part that we got to continue to work on because that's what our students are looking for. So it's not just delivering it through online, but that online experience has to be engaging for our students to be successful. So it's really focusing, no matter what platform or what avenue our students are taking their courses or the services, our job is to make sure that they are engaged. We built a relationship with them. They feel that they belong and that we have some urgency, because that's also another piece that we're learning. Our students want urgency. They want, services and to be there, but with quality.
We're going to take a short break here, give Dr. Tsegai a chance to maybe rest her vocal cords here. We're pushing her pretty hard this morning on what's next with a lot of conversation, but most certainly enjoying it. Dr. Adiam Tsegai is the 13th president of SUNY Erie. She is with us this morning on What's Next. We're going to take a time out and come back with more. This is What's Next on WBFO.
Celebrate the 50th anniversary season of Austin City Limits. Don't miss remarkable performances from Gary Clark Jr., Black Pumas, Brittany Howard, and more. Watch every Monday at 10 p.m. on WNED PBS.
Watch the best of Western New York high school football every Friday night at 7 p.m. Catch the games every week on Create on Spectrum Channel 1275.
Did you know that WNED PBS is always working on great new local shows for you to watch? Documentaries like Kleinhand's Gift to Buffalo, which tells the story of Buffalo's music hall.
The hall is very intimate, and that intimacy makes everyone who comes in here feel a part of our family.
Fun and educational series like Compact Science.
Believe it or not, peppers are technically fruits.
And Shakespeare's greatest hits, featuring some of his best-known soliloquies and monologues.
We are such stuff as dreams are made of.
You can watch them all on our website at WNED.org/local shows. While you're there, check out the show pages and mini websites for additional content such as bonus features, photo galleries, and lesson plans. Find it all at WNED.org/local shows.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
And welcome back to What's Next. Our guest is the 13th president of SUNY Erie, Dr. Adiam Tsegai, with us this morning. It's great, obviously, to have access to a college president here, because the role of the college president, there's a lot going on, right? I mean, I'm sure when you bump into people, the questions sometimes get really super specific and at a part of the college, and some classroom somewhere involving some teacher, that it's got to be very difficult to try to at least accommodate that kind of question. But there's also the big picture elements as well, which are really where that fall onto your shoulders here. So let's talk about what you're focused on, both in the future, but on the day to day as well.
Absolutely. So I think really bringing back our mission and vision of the college, really putting that out, right? Reimagining the college with the focus that we are student success and empowerment being our foundation to where the college is now and where the college needs to go. Focusing on our faculty and staff. They are the engine of the college to move the college forward. So how do we do that and to ensure that our faculty and staff are upskilled if it need be, given that opportunity with all the changes that's happening, but really all of us focusing on the idea of making sure that our students are successful and empowered. But what that means, we have to change the way we do business.
Okay.
Things have changed. And so what that means is that redefining how we operate, how we deliver our academic programming, the services that our students need, how do we do that? And really focusing on that and making sure that we're doing things to be efficient. Right sizing is appropriate, as you know, with our South Campus, but really maximizing the college's space. We have wonderful campuses, including the City Campus and the North Campus. We have an extension site with Northland, West Her. So how do we ensure that we are present in the region, but also being very efficient and being fiscally responsible? To make sure that we're not just thinking about now, but also making sure that our college is here for the generation to come. And so for me, it's really ensuring that the college is financially stable, maximizing what we have by way of our space, and really also investing in our space. The spaces and area that we serve our students matter. So reinvesting back into the college to make sure that we are, meeting the requirement and meeting the needs of our students who want to have the best experience both in and outside the classroom.
Yeah, to hear you talking about that, it seems that, again, back to you've got to be focused on the day-to-day, but you've got to anticipate future trends.
That's right. That's right.
What are you seeing?
So I think part of it is the idea that, focusing day to day, for me, day to day is equally as important as the future. So for us to make sure that our operation day to day makes sense for our students. But the future is really for us to be able to modify and change our curriculum and our programming as the market changes. And so an example for you is our mechatronic program that we have a collaboration with Northland. That program started 4 years ago, roughly. We spoke to the industry about what it is that they want, and we modified it based up on the industry's need. And so this idea of modifying our programming based up on the industry, equally what our students wanted. So our program at Northland is a little bit unique. It's a 7.5 model within a 15 weeks course offering. So we listened to our students. They were overwhelmed, taking 4 classes. So what we did, we modified so that they take 2 of their classes in 7.5, finish that, and then start the other 7.5. So what we saw with that is a tremendous success with our students academically. But we also saw a positive response from the industry as our students are immediately hired in, once they graduate. And this is only a certificate program.
Right.
So based upon that, recently we are working on getting our mechatronic to a 2-year degree because the demand is there from our students who want to come back. As well as the industry saying we want more. And so for us to think through that, certificates are great, degrees are great, but our students want to also continue to be a lifelong learner. So how do we ensure that we're taking that? So looking at the future in a very comprehensive way, but with this idea that we have to constantly reimagine, redefine everything that we do. That's very different than, I guess, the way higher ed operated in the past.
Yeah, can we talk a little more about the Northland operation?
Absolutely.
It's a fascinating look at how, because we hear so much about trying to address the needs of the workforce, that there right now just aren't enough qualified workers to fulfill the local economy, which is quite a bit different than I would say than 40 years ago, for sure, when it was, needless to say, the direct opposite. So there are these opportunities. So how do you work with Northland to like you said, have the certificate program, but also, find a way to continue to adapt.
Absolutely. And so I think Northland was a pilot. And I think if Steve Tucker was here, he would say the same thing. It was a challenge at the beginning for all of us. And we needed to really understand what was the purpose of this partnership. So one, it's really, we all had a common denominator, that is the students. How do we ensure that we're serving the students to wherever they're coming from, whether it's academic or otherwise? And so having a wraparound services at Northland was key to make sure that our students were getting the support they need for daycare and all those things. But really to talk about the curriculum itself, what are we offering? And so it was key for us, particularly SUNY Erie, to make sure that the curriculum was rigor, but well supported. The delivery was important in how we deliver and engage our students. Hands-on, it was a key for our students. It was not just the theory, but also the ability for them to actually feel and see what they're doing and really apply what they learned in the classroom setting and in the lab. So that was a sort of a learned lesson throughout the process. Right. And so once we did that, so one of the things that we do with Northland is to have a continued biweekly meeting to make sure that, and we've been doing it for about 4 years, to make sure that everyone's on the same page and using the students and the curriculum, registering them. Because of that, and it's one of the most successful programs that we have at SUNY Erie, because of that, we are going to have a new, our auto tech is going to Northland. It's going to start in January.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to have an auto tech, a certificate program at Northland, as well as our heating and cooling HVAC is going to also be at Northland. That will start in the fall. And so we are going to expand more programs at Northland based upon result. And we wanted to make sure that we knew this model. So the idea is to mimic this model. Equally, we have the same partnership with West Her.
Right.
So we have that concept with West Her in Northtown, where our students are actually getting their coursework in the site, in the dealer site. Our faculty are going there. We're providing them the services that what they need, but they're also working simultaneously, which that's also another model that's working really well for us, that our students, they want to learn, but they also work at the same time. And so we were able to do that with our auto tech, both at Northtown and West Her right now as well. So this is the future. One of the things that I believe we are going to do is really work with the industry partners and other organizations to really have ECC be present there and do what we do best, and that is deliver academic programming and student services. So that's our job to do that. But it's key that we always are in tune with the industry and the need so that our programming, our academic curriculum specifically, is relevant to the need. And so that's something that we're working on in all of our programs to make sure that it's relevant and it's applicable. And most importantly, there's a path, whether the students is going to a 4-year or whether they're going into the industry or do both. I think that's an opportunity, work, and then go and pursue your education like I did. I was a social science major at ECC, SUNY Erie, and then I worked in health human services as I was attending the University of Buffalo. So for me, it gave me that both experience to do that. In part, that's where I learned my leadership is through that whole process, working in health human services.
And just back to the Northland programs,
sure.
So a little bit. It's not an exaggeration to say that people are going into that program and getting hired right away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those students, and we have statistics I can share that with you.
Sure, please.
That 85% of our students are getting into the workforce immediately after they graduate. And this is in partnership with Northland. They also do a wonderful job of making sure that our students are provided with a coach, as well as they call them a career coach, where they're not just only helping them get through the academic, but also once they finish, those students are working in the field. And so it's an excellent program. It's been very successful, since the 5 years now.
It's interesting to hear you reflect on your time at ECC and how you were able to kind of work through, get into the workforce, but then continue your education at the University of Buffalo.
Yes.
Were there lessons learned, things that, again, whether you call them challenges or opportunities, that you learned during that time that you're bringing those into this?
Absolutely. I think part of it is really this whole idea of education as a business as well, to make sure that we're servicing our students and our constituent in general. I think going through that is what helped me to see that. And so, and I also worked in a private college in Western New York for about 20 years. And so that also brought some of the ways that I'm, managing or leading the college is really understanding education, both from a private sector as well as public. And so to put those together and be able to see that the potential of SUNY Erie is tremendous. So I am thoroughly excited about what we're doing and what the potential of the college.
COVID, of course, was a struggle for colleges. We see that,
Yes.
when it came to enrollment. Back to lessons or challenges, or again, whatever terminology you want to utilize, coming back from that, do you get that sense that more people, the numbers are going to return on their own to pre-COVID times, or there's work to be done to make sure that you're connecting to, what had been traditionally a very strong, student enrollment?
I think both, a little bit of both, right? I think we know, and I certainly do a lot of listening session with our students to really understand. So what I hear and see is that students want to be in person, and then this idea of connecting and being present is important for them. And so that's one of the things they ask, is that they want to have more organization, more extracurriculum activity, but really timed appropriately so that they are doing other things. Equally, they're also asking for flexibility, right? So it's this really dynamic where that's why I think it's important. We have to constantly reimagine what we do and how we do it. But one of the main one thing that comes through is that they want relationship and they want to connect. So, and we are seeing students coming back. And so we are seeing, but the way they want, things delivered, that's where you see the flexibility.
Okay. We're going to take another time out and come back for a few more minutes with Dr. Adiam Tsegai, the 13th president of SUNY Erie. This is What's Next on WBFO.
Hey, parents and caregivers. Let Reading Rainbow Stories help your child stay on track with their studies. Teach your child to shatter stereotypes with amazing grace.
There's no doubt who would be Peter Pan. Everyone voted for Grace. You were fantastic, whispered Natalie.
Or about how bats and birds are different with Stella Luna.
Why are you hanging upside down? You're a bat. You're supposed to hang by your feet.
Or about how to preserve family legacies with the patchwork quilt.
Yes, your mama can get you a quilt from any department store, but it won't be like my patchwork quilt, and it won't last as long either.
Visit readingrainbow.org or the Reading Rainbow YouTube channel today.
Celebrate the 50th anniversary season of Austin City Limits. Don't miss remarkable performances from Gary Clark Jr., Black Pumas, Brittany Howard, and more. Watch every Monday at 10 p.m. on WNED PBS.
Where do you go when you want news you can trust? WBFO, of course. And when you just want to catch up on the day's news, you can go to the WBFO Brief Podcast. Listen to the WBFO Brief every weekday wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can always stay up to date with the news you need.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
And we're back on What's Next with Dr. Adiam Tsegai, the president of SUNY Erie. You mentioned before we went to the break, you hold listening sessions with your students.
Yes, I do.
I want to hear about that dynamic. That has got to be fascinating. I don't ever remember Buffalo State's president having a listening session with me. Maybe I just was late for that. I don't know.
So I did a listening session last semester, not only with our students, but also with our faculty and staff, as well as the outside community that work with the college. And so for me, it's important to listen to, and this is something that I want to do on an annually basis to really make sure that we are listening to what they're saying, certainly me listening to our students. So the experience with our students, they were very excited, and we did to make sure that we had participation. We did it at all of our location to make sure that we have that. But again, our students are looking for us to not just only deliver education and services, but also to show them that we care and that they matter. And so for me, that's important for me that they do that. I do everything I can to walk around, meet the students. I'm a fan of going to our sport.
Is that
football,
right?
Yes, our football game is awesome.
How's the team this year?
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, we're winning. Yeah,
we're winning.
Yeah,
that's the key, right?
Yes, we are, and they're excited about it. So I went into the when the coaches were recruiting them, we had an orientation for our football team. So I went and visit the team, and I promised that I would show up in their game. So one of the player asked me, "Are you going to come to our game?" So I did, and they recognized. So they're exciting to have. And a lot of our football team, actually, they're not from this area. A lot of them come from New York City or down south. So it's a very interesting group to bring. But all of them, I can tell you, the common denominator is that they want to feel that they belong and that we care and that we know them. So that's really my goal, to make sure that they know from the top to everyone that's involved at the college that we put our students first, but we connect with them and that they matter. And so the listening section are a great way for me to build that relationship and listen to them, making sure that what we think we're doing is really making an impact. Otherwise, it's something that we need to assess. So I'm big on data. I want to make sure that we're constantly collecting data by a way of both qualitative and quantitative, getting feedback from our students, from our faculty and staff, and from all of our partners. Because again, without that, we can't improve, but really getting feedback so that we could do activities and programming that are highly impactful.
So the football team, then, it sounds like you draw from a wide area with that. So it helps with enrollment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we have roughly about 75 to 80 players that came from a variety of the country. So it's really exciting. We also have a soccer team. A lot of them are also international.
Oh, okay.
We have our basketball team. They're also international. The coaches do an awesome job of recruiting our students. And so we have this. When we say we're diverse, we are diverse truly. So this is a really exciting time for the college as well.
So back to the listening sessions, sure. You said you did it at all three locations. Were you hearing maybe different themes at each location?
Not too much. I think more common, wanting to get a lot of support. Wellness is a big one. That was a theme, meaning the whole idea of food insecurity, housing insecurity, just really dealing with a lot of life issues outside the college, wanting more support in that regard. Making sure that another theme that came across all is making sure that we are present. In other words, making sure that we're accommodating by a way of having more hours open. An example is a library, to make sure that we are accommodating them. So more common theme than not. Certainly the energy is a little bit different at each of the campuses, but I would say more common theme than not with what they want, and really is to serve them as much as we can.
Interesting to hear that you're a data person.
Oh, absolutely.
I guess I now that I think about it, you have some background in engineering, and so I guess that's not a huge surprise. So just if you mind, share with me the data, things that you're kind of always rolling through your head, things that you're always watching when it comes to trying to find that quantitative element that's going to help lead SUNY forward.
I think one is this whole idea about enrollment and how do we share. In the past, the college did not necessarily share on a weekly basis enrollment numbers. So what we do is that at the point that we start registration, we have been communicating to the college community where we are. That's number one. Number two, really giving the different departments their specific information regarding student numbers, where our students are, when our students are graduating, so that they can really look at that that, right? So numbers is important. And so I think for us, but we have to be, number one, create awareness. Number two, it's a way for us to hold ourselves accountable. And so to really talk about an honest conversation about our enrollment, about our retention, about our completion rate, so that people are aware of that. And so, and relate that to the different activities and programming that we're doing. So if we think we're doing all these great programming, but that doesn't result in our students retaining and coming to the college and graduating on a timely manner, then we have to reassess. So for me, the number is equally as important as our, way of thinking about or creating a strategy. But without numbers, you can't do that. So I learned that through my life, my time in education, is that the data and sharing the data and making sure that all of us are on the same page is important. So, and I think from what I hear as well from our faculty and stuff, they appreciate that because they didn't know, right? We talk about enrollment is going down, but what does that mean to SUNY Erie, and what does that mean to our faculty and staff? And so data is part of what we do, for sure.
I'm sure 100% retention rate would be ideal, but that's what would be the realistic? What's a realistic goal when it comes to that, do you think?
I think number one, I think we have a lot of work to do, and you are right. It's difficult to say 100, but certainly like everyone, I would like 100%. But I think for us, moving in the right direction, making sure that we're making improvement by percentage and really having that not just, by accident, but really tying it back to what activity did we do to create this increase. So for us, we want to move to increase both our retention, but also our completion rate in a timely manner. And so we have some work to do. For sure. But I think part of it, and we are seeing that, we are moving in a positive direction, but we have a lot of more work to do to make sure that we're meeting that goal.
So when you talk about completion rate, if you're in a 2-year program, the idea is to get 2 years.
Yes.
Well, so is there a number right now that perhaps that we know maybe the average student takes? So
it takes a long time sometimes for the students to graduate in a 2-year. Part of it is just, and this is work that we're doing right now, is that we have a new advisement model where we are changing the way we advise our students to make sure that our students, when they start the college, they know exactly how many courses they need in order to stay on track, but following up with them as far as how they're progressing in that. So for us, one of the things that was very clear is that we have to be very mindful about the way we advise students academically, so they stay on track, and to know and to understand that their progress report, that goes to the idea of empowering students. So one of the things I ask students during orientation is that, do you know your graduation date? Right? Because when you come to the college, we have to establish when you're going to graduate. And so that's the goal. Our job is to help you get there. But also this idea of sort of accountability is not just for us, but our students. And we need to share that with them, that we want them to graduate. And we want them to know the day that they're going to graduate as well.
Diversity and equity. I heard a little bit of your inaugural speech, and it's one of the pillars that came up. And we touched on this a little bit before we went on the air. Let's maybe just get into that, how that looks for you and how, again, that is influencing day-to-day operations at SUNY Erie, and also where do you want to be in the future?
That's right. So I think for me, diversity is who we are. It's not an add-on. It's not part of, right? It's part of the foundation of the college, and that means, diversity by way of our students. How do we do that? Our faculty and staff, the type of programming that we offer. So, and more importantly, belonging, that students see themselves in that, making sure that we're sensitive to their need. So really, it's who we are. It's not an add-on. It's not just an occasion, but it is part of the college. So when you are doing excellent, diversity exists. When you are doing great outcome, diversity exists. When you are touching students and changing life, diversity exists. So for me and for us, is really part of who we are. It's not an add-on. It's not an occasion. It's not a monthly celebration because, right, it's but who we are. But it's also equally that we need to really look at what we have and what we do. So one of the things that we recently did is that we translated into our paperwork, admission paperwork, as well as financial aid paperwork into 7 languages. 7 languages. And there's more to come.
Wow.
But at least as a starting, because our community, as you know, is very diverse. And if we look at the Buffalo Public School, we have hundreds of languages being spoken, right? That's our community. So one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that we are reaching out. And so language is one of the ways. So we are going to do our programming and translate those, but more language we will be translating. So that's an example of how we're mindful about how do we do this and how do we engage the very diverse community that we have in Western New York.
Dr. Tsegai, I can't help but think as we were having our conversation that we're either listening to us as either a parent or perhaps a student or a non-traditional student who's thinking about going back to school. Let's talk to them a little bit.
Sure.
About, because it kind of goes back to the idea of retention. You don't want somebody to come to SUNY Erie looking to do X when either A, the pathway might not be there, or B, they may not be really, you'd hate to say ready, but I think of a family example of somebody who went back to Erie Community College many years ago with the idea that he was going to be an architect and realized once he got in that he did not have the math capability to get even close to being involved in that. So there was a mistake made, again, this is a long time ago, but of goal not meeting reality.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about that and maybe try to inform some folks right now about the opportunities at SUNY Erie, but also the best way to approach their own pathway.
So we have roughly about 80 programs, both certificate and the degree and micro-credential. So there's a huge opportunity for any student and parents or anyone that's coming back to school to choose those. But part of that is really having a clear understanding of what the program and what kind of courses the student need to take or be prepared. And so the advisement model that I was talking to earlier, that starts right when students inquire or parent inquire at the college.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
All
That's part of the goal, is to make sure that onboarding process is very clear. After that, it's really meeting with the department. So to use the architecture conversation, right? We have a 2-year architecture, and our students do really well and transfer directly to UB after they finish or work in the field. The idea is to really talk to the department chair or the faculty to make sure that the students are prepared to take that. If a student does not have necessarily the math skill, we have programs that they could take the prep courses to make sure that they're ready for that. And so, and the opportunity for them to shadow, or the opportunity for them to speak to other students, particularly in architecture. So there's a way to make sure that is. The other opportunity is for our students to be in general studies. And we have a great percentage of our students who come in general studies just because they're not sure what path. So one of the things that we're working on is creating a path. An example is a recent health career path where we hosted within the college to really attract the general study students to see what health programs are available for them and which paths. So nursing or dental hygiene or respiratory therapy. We have these programs, and we have a lot of students in general studies who want to do something in the medical or health field. So we did this 2-day event where they had the opportunity to speak to the department chairs within the health program about the ability or the desire, if a student have a desire to go. But what does that look like? What kind of courses? What kind of support? What kind of internship? What does that look like? So our students have the ability to interact with those departments as well.
If we had you back here 4 years from now, we'll use that as a date. What would you say would be a successful duration for you and for SUNY Erie? If you were to, 4 years from now, you're here, this is what we're going to report is happening or has happened in that time at SUNY Erie.
So for us to be and can be a community college of choice in the region. right? And for us to have a significant number of students who are enrolled at the college, as well as retain and graduating and creating a path. I think choosing to be at the college is important for me because our students have, and parents have a ton of colleges and university in Western New York, plus online. So they have option. But for us to be a choice, that means that we are doing well in our academic programming. We're servicing our students well, that experience that we're talking about. And then most importantly, though, our students are graduating, going into the workforce, and or continuing their education until 4 years. So for me, I want to be able to say that that's what we do well and be able to support it with data, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you if you love your job as president of SUNY Erie, because I got a feeling that I already know the answer to that is an emphatic yes. Why do you love it?
I love it because of the impact that we have to not only our community now, but in the future. It opens doors. It did for me and my family. Because of my opportunity at SUNY Erie, I was able to not change just my life, but my children's life. And both of my children have graduated from college, are working and doing really well. And that's in part, I really attribute to that, that community college impact. And I see that. I see my peers. So every other person I meet in Western New York either graduated from SUNY Erie or knows someone like you mentioned earlier or your neighbor. So we are a key to the success of this region as well as beyond. It's not just here, but beyond, the Western New York. So for me, it's exciting to be part of that journey. It is exciting to be that we are impacting and creating access, but not just access, to the point that, as we mentioned, Northland, we're changing their lives, right? Our students are doing really well, and their children are doing well because of that. So it's exciting.
Dr. Adiam Tsegai is a graduate of Erie Community College. She is also the 13th president of the college. Dr. Tsegai, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This has been What's Next on WBFO.
Support for WBFO and What's Next comes from our members and from Health Foundation for Western and Central New York, where racial and socioeconomic health equity are prioritized. Learn more about building healthier neighborhoods at hfwcny.org.